Today we're going to learn about matzah, in particular Motzei Matzah. Yesterday we learned about the siman, the halachas of rachsa, one of the simanim. Today we're going to move on to Motzei Matzah. And in particular, we're going to learn one aspect, which is how do you actually deal with the handling of the matzah? We have three matzos, which is the custom for most Jews. And we have two berachos that we're going to be reciting. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, which is the standard bracha that we say the entire year when we eat bread. It's actually very interesting that we say the bracha hamotzi lechem min haaretz. It's not really lechem. It's not really bread. It's unleavened bread. But anyways, that's something else to think about. And then the second, what? Lechamoni, it's called, the bread of a poor person, so it's still called bread. Okay, it's a good answer. And then the second bracha that we say, bracha Hashem, Elokeinu machal masher, kedishanu mitzvah tzivanu, al achilas matzah. There's a lot of discussion, the technicalities of that text of this bracha, of the nusach bracha, al achilas matzah, as opposed to maybe dropping the al, putting a lamed before. I'm not so interested in the technicalities of text. It's just not my style. But they do discuss that a lot, and there are major discussions. But something to focus on is how do you hold the matzos? The person saying the beracha, which we call the mevarach or the boitseya, the person saying the beracha or the cutter, right? How does he hold the matzos? We have three matzos. We have the top matzos are full. The middle one is a half. It's the smaller half because back by yachatz earlier in the seder, we already cut it, and we saved the bigger half for the afikoman. A lot of discussions why we break the middle matzah, in particular, why we save the bigger one for the afikoman. A lot of significance there. That's another discussion in of itself. And then the bottom one is a full. So what exactly do we do? So the truth is, I could really summarize this all Baal Peh, but that's not the style over here. We like going through everything and we like getting all the nitty-gritty details. So we're going to go through the Torah. We're going to try to learn about all of this in 20 minutes if it's possible. And that's what we're going to do. The Torah over here in the beginning of Siman Taf Ayin Hey, he says, you wash your hands. Take the Seder plate like the matzos are placed in there. Fine, you got the full one on top and then the broken one under, and then fine. Now, you make the beracha on the complete one, hamotzi. You say the hamotzi on the full one. You cut it. You don't make the beracha until you and you don't cut it. You don't start eating it until you make the beracha on the broken one also al achilas matzah. And then you eat with both of them together. Okay, that's already the next part. We're not going to deal with that right now. But how much you need to eat, that's going to be tomorrow's session, Mitzvah Hashem. Kopanim, the idea over here is, according to the Torah, what?
You have the whole matzah and the half. He
Yeah.
didn't say anything about the third matzah.
He didn't mention the bottom. I was thinking that also right now.
Right, and he says that you make the bracha on the two of them, and then you break mivatza, right? Then you break the whole matzah, but you don't eat it yet. And then only on the half you make a achilas matzah.
That's right. Okay, so we're gonna see. We're not gonna end up doing that. We're gonna see.
Yeah.
We're gonna see exactly what we do. That's why right. That's why it's a very interesting tour. Look at the Beis Yosef. This is really why it's worthwhile to learn this over here. The Beis Yosef sheds a tremendous amount of insight on this. Why is the top one full? It all goes back to Yom Lamed Gimel. We don't pass over mitzvahs. Passover, we call it, right? Pesach. You put the full one on top. That's the first one that's closest to you. So you say hamotzi, that's the first mitzvah that hits you. Okay? Now, next one. You make a bracha on the full one. This isn't going to be worse than any other yontif or any other Shabbos, where we would say the bracha on what? On the full one. Right? This wouldn't be any worse. Just like on every Shabbos and yontif, we make sure that the bread is full and the matzah, so too over here. It says in berachos on lamed What about the Gemara Berachos Lamites? Everyone agrees that on Pesach you put the broken matzah in the full matzah and you cover from it. Why is the broken matzah in there? The answer is lachamoni, the bread of a poor person. You doesn't have full bread. Hainu oiso lechem sheyoitzi bo yedei achilas matzah. That is talking about the bread or the matzah that you're going to use to fulfill your obligation of the mitzvah of matzah. Aval hamotzi, when it comes to the hamotzi, because remember, two berachas, you're saying hamotzi first. Pshita dal shleimim be'inun kishariyim tov. It's obvious you need full. So this is why you need full. Mach kasabel yochel ad shevarcha apusa b'chilas matzav yochel mishleim yachli kasabel rash velchem yachel v'atam di imnochu shel hamotzi t'chila shiyah shleima v'arbosam mechila atim di chavetz matzav anamim lechem monim mishleim atim di aprusa l'shem. Why are you eating it after both brachas? The answer is because if you're going to eat just the matzah first, that you said the hamotzi on, then wait a second. With that eating, you're fulfilling your obligation. But we need it to be that some of the matzah that you're eating is lechamoni, the bread of poverty, which is going to be the broken bread and not the full bread. Okay, so this is the Torah shedding some insight. Let's go straight to, I don't think that we actually have to see anything in the Shulchan Aruch. We might just jump straight to the Mishna Berura over here. There's not so much commentary. Okay, now, no. Okay, the Magen Avram says, V'yochsam biyado. Okay, the Shulchan Aruch says, rather, hold them in your hand, he says. Hamotzi, etc. So the who is this? The Magen Avram. So the Magen Avram says, Kol shloshasan. Hold all three of them. Kadeshia lechem mishnah, order that it will be lechem mishnah. Uprusu mishum lechemoni. So basically, in a nutshell, the story is like this, yeah? He's quoting the Bach, Dibra Maskul, Umasha Kasav, and the story is like this. You hold all three, all right? Here's the reason why you hold all three if someone asks you. What is the Dibra Maskul? This must be later on. Yeah, it's not over here. You see where it says Umibnei?
Yeah, Minog.
I don't know where it says Umibnei. It must be later on in the Simon. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, the idea is that you have to have all three, and here's the reason, and listen very carefully, even though my scrolling could be distracting. The idea over here is that when you have all three, there's a general obligation of Lechem Mishnah, right? Lechem Mishnah, as we know, is the idea of, okay, you have Lechem Mishnah, which means that you have two full breads or matzos. That's why we have the bottom matzah, which is full, and the top one that's full, and that's why you're going to hold that. You need the lechem mishnah only for the first bracha. Hamotzi lechem in arts. Remember, it's a regular yontif. You need lechem mishnah.
Right, yeah.
Now, the broken matzah, you got to hold. You got to have in there in the middle because of lechem only. So that's why we hold all of them. Keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that. Okay, now, the Taz says, Hatam di yishposim levarach al shleim hamotzi vel aprusa shu lechem only al chilas matzah. Okay, some poskim say you make a bracha just on the complete one, hamotzi, and on the broken one, then you say lechamoni, achilas matzah, just on that one. But some say the opposite. That's why you hold all of them. Right? That's the basic idea. Okay, different opinions. Chok Yaakov also goes into this as well. All right, fine. That's the idea over here. Let's go straight to the Mishna Berura. Got a lot to do in 15 minutes.
Because the Beis Yosef didn't mention anything that he mentioned in the
That's right.
Shulchan Aruch. Interesting.
That's right. We didn't see the whole Beis Yosef, but because we're going to take a look now at the beracha. Start with the beracha. Beracha comments. Hatami shum de iko plugasa. There's a machloikis. He's posting the Surah Shevar Hamotzi l'Shem v'al Chilas Matzah l'Prusa v'Yisrael l'Hech l'Chach 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 l'Shem v'Yad l'Vam t'Chut b'Shir l'Chach Mishnah v'Yivar Hamotzi v'Chil. Fine, we just saw that idea in the Taz. Comes along the Mishna Berura. V'Yoichzem b'Yado, you hold them in your hand, yeah? Kol Shlei Shasen hal Yonah v'Tachtan b'Shir l'Chach Mishnah v'Prusa al Shem l'Chamoni. Same idea. V'Yavarech berchas hamotzi. Pay attention to this highlighted part, because it's easy to mess this up. And this is the most important halacha that we're going to be learning today from a practical perspective and standpoint. Yavarech berchas hamotzi. You say the beracha, berachat Hashem. Ukeinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. I'm going to try to demonstrate over here with three tissues. All right. This is going to be the whole tissue. This is going to be like folded. This is the whole tissue. This is the broken tissue. And then this is going to be the top tissue. You're holding all three. Beracha to Hashem. By the way, I'm doing this because what I'm saying right now, I've given shir many times in many different places in between Mincha and Marv on Pesach, and the entire shir was this. And this main point after people said thank you. Now I'm more confused than I was before.
Wow.
I said I thought I was pretty clear on what I said. If you want, I'll recap it to you right now, and then I tried to recap it to him. It's not complicated.
It's not complicated at all.
Just listen, okay? I don't understand what the issue with that guy was. Anyways, you hold all three of them like this. You say the beracha while you're holding all three. Continuing the Mishna Berura, third bottom matzah, drop it. After you say hamotzi, you drop the matzah. Now don't drop it so that the whole thing cracks. You put the thing down. You let it slip from your hand. Now you got the middle one and the top one. What?
At that point, it doesn't matter if it cracks it, but okay.
Better keep it complete. You drop it. It's the mitzvah. You got to treat it appropriately. It's a mitzvah object.
You're breaking it anyway, but I understand. Okay.
But Pinkett says you're ingesting a mitzvah da'oraisa over here. How many? Let me ask you a question. When else do you ingest a mitzvah da'oraisa?
100%. This is the only thing we mitzvah.
What about?
This is it. This is da'oraisa.
What about the first night of Sukkot?
No, the food itself isn't intrinsically a mitzvah. This over here, there's an intrinsic value to the matzah that you're digesting.
Well, isn't the first night of Sukkot?
What'd you say?
Isn't that the first? Isn't that a mitzvah? It's in itself. The lechem on this first night of Sukkot. No.
Yeah, but the mitzvah itself, the bread itself, isn't a mitzvah da'oraisa that you're ingesting. The concept.
Why not? Why not?
It's sitting in the sukkah.
It's sitting in the sukkah. It's eating. It's a means to an end. What do you mean?
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Did you watch the Yeshua shir that I emailed you yet?
Which one? The
I
newest
sent you
one?
an email with 2-3 shir.
Yes, yep.
Good. All right, we'll talk about it after. Good. All right, then you're allowed to stay in the chabura. What's this button? There's a button over here. You click these three buttons. No, not replace pin. Remove button. The remove button.
The eject button.
That's it. The eject. The self-destruct. Okay. Akopanim. Go back. Boom. Bottom one drops. Now the avarach ala prusa. While you're holding these two, while you're holding the top one with the middle one that's broken, you say beracha to Hashem. Look at achilas matzah. The avarach shtei habrachos terin yishabrin. Both brachas you make before you break them. Like the Shulchan Aruch says. This is another point. People a lot of times they start doing things while they're saying a bracha. Never ever is there any place where you're supposed to do something when you say a bracha. The only thing you do when you say a bracha is you think about a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that's what you're supposed to do. Okay? What?
They eat right away.
Yeah, okay. So now, remember, we're learning about Motzei Matzah today, not korech. Motzei Matzah. Your middle one that was broken, and your top one, that's what you eat for your Motzei Matzah. That's what you eat from. The bottom one, forget about it. We're going to come back to the bottom one for korech. We're not learning about korech. Here's 3 tissues if you need them. Mishtayim b'yachad. You eat from both them together. The whole lechatchilo sarich le'echol mishnayim b'asachas. Preferably, you eat from both of them simultaneously, like we say later on. Gamkein b'asachas. The cutting should also be simultaneous. Not one after another. There's no interruption between the first cutting and the eating.
Now, practically, you have a lot of people at your Seder.
Yeah.
Not enough in that, especially the prusa to give everybody.
They're going to discuss that. We're going to come back to that. Wait 4 minutes. Wait 4 minutes. We'll get back to the next 4 minutes. This is the Mishna Berura. This is what to do. Yeah.
You have to save the third one for korech. That's
right. Oh yeah, we're going to be learning about that.
That should be part of the division.
That's right. That's why, not to ruin the endings, but that's why you drop it. You drop it, you forget about it. Remember, you only needed it for like a Mishnah. Now we're going to use it for korech. Now, let's move on a little bit over here because we only have around How much time do we have left here? 5 minutes? Oh, I didn't even get the 10-minute warning. All right, well, we're gonna finish all this because I mentally prepared that we are gonna break it down in this way. This is gonna be officially Motzei Matzah. All right. Now let's continue with one more point before we get off the page of the Mishna Berura because I want to cover it all today. All right. There's a major discussion about the salt. I think David said the S word. He said the salt word before.
Well, I said there's nothing you can say while you're doing with.
You mentioned salt before?
You can say past the salt, but
you say past salt. No. Okay. No. Oh, by the way, all right. Okay. Now says the Shulchan Aruch, B'yat bilim b'melech, dip it in salt. Says the Rama, vein aminak l'tav melech, b'layli rishoyne, the pas naki ein sarich melech. The custom is not to dip it in salt on the first night. Because why? Clean bread doesn't need salt. Where does this come from? To put salt in, to not to put the salt in. Where does this come from? Says the Mishna Berura, custom is not to have salt, wrote to Lomar, meaning, even though even though during the rest of Pesach we dip the matzah in salt, even though it's already clean, so to say, the bread, and you don't need to dip it. Make your hadin from the letter of the law. You don't need to use salt. Really, we don't need to use salt nowadays because all of our matzah and our bread already has salt in it. But still, the custom is to use salt. On the first nights of Pesach, the custom is not this way to use salt. Because if you're not using salt, it's more of the bread of a poor person. Poor person might not even have salt. Right? Shtei pamim. What's the shtei pamim?
Tibul shtei pamim. So if you dip the salt, it'll be a third time.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. Okay. I see. Okay. Now, take a look over here at Dalit. Hey, look at this point of the Rama. Rama said, custom is not to use salt balaylo rishon on the first night. Says the Mishna Berura, balaylos rishonos. It means in the first nights. For us in Chutzlar, it's over here. We have the Seder twice. Okay, this is the Mishna Berura. Good. Let's immediately take a look at something that we got yesterday.
Is there a difference between dipping in the salt versus like sprinkling the salt on top? Better to dip, right?
Yeah, they discuss about that. Different customs. Okay, the first one over here. Those who have the custom to announce the simanim before every single siman. Right? Magid, beracha, Motzei Matzah. So according to Rav Vosner, according to Rav Vosner, he says over here that what? You should announce Motzei Matzah before you wash your hands, not after. Because this announcing might be considered a hefsek, an interruption between washing and Motzei Matzah, eating the matzah. Okay? Take a look at this next note. The person forgot and ate matzah without a beracha. Rav Shlomo Kluger, Nishal Shuvas Helvacha Shlomo Nor Chaim Simin Shin Chaf Aleph says you would not fulfill your obligation if you didn't say a beracha. Why? Because the Gemara in berachos Lamed Hey, see the recordings of Rabban.com in the berachos section for more details in the Gemara section. Anyone who gets pleasure from this world without reciting a beracha, it's as if he stole, it's as if he used the property that was designated, something that was consecrated, designated to the base of Mikdash Kilu Goiza. So therefore, you're eating in a prohibited way, and it's a mitzvah b'aver. It's a mitzvah that came from sinning. You wouldn't fulfill your obligation. However, Rosh Hashanah argues on this. According to Hilchos Shalom Pesach Perek Tes, Oslam Tes and the Davar Halacha Osayvav, he says you would fulfill your obligation because it's not considered stealing, and it's not a prohibition on the actual body of the eating, on the essence of the eating. Rather, the sin is that you didn't say a beracha. Also, Rav Eliashiv rules this way as well. Take a look with the few minutes that we have remaining. Very important over here. Just to summarize some of these ideas. When a person says the beracha of hamotzi and achilas matzah, you should have in mind that it will exempt the matzah that you're going to eat during korech and also the afikoman as well. Let's say someone made a mistake and made the beracha of hamotzi or achilas matzah. Only one of the berachos, not both. You didn't realize he messed up. Or he made a mistake, he didn't make any of the berachos. And he already finished eating the matzah. The general halacha is, just like by any mitzvah, even if you didn't say the beracha, you had in mind to fulfill the mitzvah, you would still fulfill your obligation. You would not need to return and eat again, and make the beracha again. to fulfill your obligation. However, if you're going to continue eating matzah, well, you have to make the bracha of hamotzi now because you're going to be eating afikoman. So you have to make that bracha hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Right? What does he say over here? He says, "Naktin lamaisa shotzi de chavas vein sarich lachzor v'lechol v'yavarch ata berchas hamotzi v'yoichel ma'at." Bachar chivar cheshek d'sham tzvanu al achilas matzah v'gaming far gamar lechol kazayis ki b'chol laila zem mekayim mitzvos v'achilas matzah v'gam adayin afikoman l'fanum shekamin v'rashon make it right. If you didn't do the afikoman yet, you have to say both berachos again before the afikoman al achilas matzah and hamotzi lechem min haaretz. But you would still fulfill your obligation of eating the matzah. Let's see, you forgot to. We're already jumping ahead a little over here. Forgot to make the bracha of al achilas mara. Right. So if you already finished your kazayis of mara that you ate, you're going to learn more about the mara next session. You don't make the bracha. You fulfill your obligation because the bracha, like we said, it's not ma'akiv with the mitzvah. You can still fulfill your obligation of the mitzvah even if you didn't say the bracha. Right? Similarly, if someone made a mistake and he had korech before mara, to make the bracha of mara afterwards. Okay, so that's the case, and he quotes a lot more sources over here to this idea about the stealing business. Didn't make the bracha. You would fulfill your obligation. He discusses it more in one of the footnotes over here. Okay.
Stolen matzah, you'd be fulfill your chiyuv?
No, not if it was stolen. If you forgot to say the bracha.
That's in the bracha.
If it was stolen, no, it wouldn't be good. That is the definition of a mitzvah. You would not be good. Maybe you would. It's going to come up somewhere in Hilchos Pesach.
Like if you're kohen beforehand.
Exactly. All the things, shinur bailim, shinur shame, all that. We'll have to learn about that. That's going to be in another place. Basically says that you got to make sure everyone gets enough matzah. We're going to discuss about the quantity tomorrow.
Okay.
Or in the next sessions. But you got to make sure that there's enough over here, right? So the idea over here is that there's basically three ways what to do when you're saying the berachos and other people are going to fulfill their obligation with your berachos that you're saying. Yeah. Either you eat first and then distribute, or you just distribute and then after, right?
Each way is fine.
Afterwards, you eat. Well, what we do is we first eat a little, and then distribute. The reason why this eating is different than all other eatings is because this is you got to recline. It's a whole to do and everything, right? So I think what I usually do is my wife sits next to me, and basically I just cut a piece for myself. And then she'll just self-serve. Because it's not like you need a knife and everything, like when you're doing challah. And then she could distribute. Our kids were never up at that point yet. They're still only 4 or younger.
Right.
So they didn't make it here. But this is the idea. We're gonna learn about reclining also. She talks about if you don't have enough quantity of matzah. You got too many people. So everyone's got to have plates in front of them with more matzah use. You got to make sure you're having the right amount. We're going to learn about that. Right amount, exactly. And there's ideas behind the salt. Other ideas also which are quoted. That number one, it's the bread of affliction. But number one, it shows that there's a chiv of mitzvah. There's a love for the mitzvah when it doesn't have. The Maharil discusses this. The Chok Yaakov actually quotes this. When there's nothing else, no other ingredients, it shows a love and endearment for the mitzvah about not having salt as well. All right, there's a lot of discussion about the salt. I'm not so interested in it, just because the Rama says the custom is not to. Just leave it at that. But there's a major discussion about this. So, anyways, Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we will continue with the Mara Korech. We're going to keep moving, keep learning. Have a good day. Welcome to you.
Go back to the.
I wonder what's the most